Hello, everybody. Welcome to the customer support client success panel discussion. We just wrapped up a great conversation, an hour-long meeting, CS executives meeting to talk about continuous improvement processes. What are we doing with the feedback that we're getting, and how do we continuously improve our processes in elevating our service delivery? We had a guest speaker, Mark Hollis, with us. He came in and spoke about blueprint mapping. Very great discussion. A lot of fantastic ideas came out of the breakout room as a result. So to kind of kick us off, Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you to just briefly cover what you discussed as our lightning guest speaker today.
Thank you so much, Paul. Well, with customer service blueprint mapping, it looks at the customer experience from the outside, which we're all used to really analyzing as customer success leaders. But it also looks at the inside out process, and it divides those into physical evidence lane, where you have things like, in my case today, a blood pressure cuff that's gathering the initial data. You have a lane for the customer action or patient action in this case. Right below that, you have the lane for the support person interaction. The line between them is the actual line of interaction, where you show the different touch points and opportunities. With that, especially that area, you're looking to identify and flag pain points and areas of opportunity. But below those lanes, you have the backstage actions, what that support person is doing process-wise. Below that lane, you then have the technology that's helping to facilitate this, whether it be self-service or initiated by the customer or the support person. And it just allows you to really get a granular view and really build trust out of all the stakeholders that are helping build that interaction.
Excellent overview. Thank you so much, Mark. After your discussion, we went into breakout rooms to further talk about some of this continuous improvement that we use. And then everyone came out and contributed in a mural. What are their key takeaways? Couple things that you touched on that were reiterated. Blueprints are key to working with the product team. Someone also said you can't fix it if you can't see it. And a lot of people have shared that these types of maps help them build executive relationships, and help them elevate, the level at which they are seen inside the organization. So I think that's absolutely key. We have a lot of great discussions here. I want to turn it over to our panel here to kind of share what you discussed in your breakout room, and what are some of the things that you do that help you continuously improve your processes. So Rob, I'm going to have you kick us off, sharing and building upon what Mark just shared with us.
Yeah, definitely. One of the interesting things in our breakout room was building on the blueprint and the journey mapping. We talked a lot about how it's a powerful tool to visualize for other stakeholder groups and show relationships, and kind of show overlap and connectivity visually in a way that's very easy for other teams and other functions to see how they relate to whatever the different elements that you're mapping. So it's several people in our group really saw huge value in that, and I totally agree. It's an easy way to show if there's 6 or 8 of these groups that are involved in the map, the blueprint. What's also the relational impact of that, and how are the issues that you're outlining touch each of those groups?
Yeah, it's interesting too, to your point, Rob. I think on the CS side of things is it also shows how much you're juggling. I mean, if you're in technology or if you're in product, you're working out of Jira oftentimes, and that's it, right? Like you might have other workflows, but for majority of the time, you're spending your time in Jira or some other type of product management technology. But if you actually look at a blueprint, you look at what CS is juggling, all the pieces of technology that they're juggling and all the different types of relationships, it gets really interesting really quick. So anyone else out there want to jump in with some of the insights that you had from your breakout or that you've used that help you continuously improve your process?
I wouldn't mind sharing if that's okay. Hi, I'm Amanda. And by the way, this is my first session joining, so I just have to say thank you for the invite, and it's been a really meaningful experience. And thank you, Mark, for sharing about the blueprint. Very useful. A few of my takeaways are, I think, really starting with just having a methodology to tap into and lean into, I think is really important, especially to build credibility within the organization. So the resources you shared, Mark, to either get certified or use templates that already exist, really thankful for that, because I think oftentimes, especially the C-suite, is looking for something that's proven, that is going to get them in, get that buy-in into really understanding how we're going to be working through this, especially when it's requiring cross-functional involvement. I think the second one that I, really lean into is like, make sure you're bringing the right stakeholders to the table from the beginning, and that can look different in every org and what you're looking to accomplish. But for example, if there's a lot of overlap between sales and customer success, especially thinking about like what's, if there's different views and what's right for the customer, how do you bring sales leadership and customer success leadership to the table at the same time and align on what we're going to build and how we're going to launch it? So we're going to go in together. We're going to build the process together. And once we launch it, everybody's going to know the journey and everyone's going to follow the path. And we're going to build the hooks into the life cycle to understand if the path is working. And when we realize that it's not based on data, then we're going to go back and revisit the customer experience. So we don't get caught up in like the nuances of, customer situations or one-off situations, but we have a process that we're going to follow and we're going to do it together.
Love it.
Great example, Amanda. Thank you for sharing that. Some really great key takeaways there. All right, fantastic. Anyone else have some thoughts on this topic as we wrap up our panel discussion today?
I wanted a second.
Please, Dave.
Just one of the things that I've done that's been really successful is having that baseline, right? So doing the sort of the perfect world. What does your flow look like? What do you want it to look like? This sort of incorporates your product team and your product roadmap and where are you trying to go? And, what sort of experience do you really want to have, even if you can't have it today? And having that as you go through and do this continuously reviewing, however often you do that, and saying, hey, how close are we back to the path that we thought we should be on? Or are we moving towards it? If yes or no, like why? And is it because our vision has changed? Or is it because, we maybe have gotten off course? That's been really helpful. Because again, it's visual, it's easy. And so people can, sometimes when you're having a theoretical discussion about where you're going, no one gets the point. And when you're having a picture and you say, hey, this is the picture we wanted to achieve, but we're not heading towards this picture. So is this still the same picture we want, right?
That's great. And how do you do that, Dave? Like are you putting that into your process map? Like almost as an additional lane where you're looking at ideal outcomes? Is that what you're doing? Or how do you communicate the delta between the two?
Yeah, it's really, that's exactly what you're doing, right? It has to be a consistent thing. So how often you get to do it is dependent upon the organization, but on a regular basis, you're stepping back, you're reviewing and saying, hey, you know what, we had this kind of process is what we thought we wanted, right? And sometimes it's no longer the right process, right? But recognizing that you are moving away from what you originally thought is really important, especially if it's the right move, because you're talking about some sort of a change that maybe not everybody understands, because everybody gets an idea in their head of where you're trying to go. And if you're moving away from that, that means you need to put in some effort to help people understand, right? And there's some communication, education, whatever that needs to happen.
Or you may find that what you thought that you wanted to achieve isn't what where the customer wants to be either, right? And so that gives you this backdrop that you can start to navigate from. So I
Yep.
think that's a great point. All right, Ken, why don't you wrap us up, and that'll finish up our panel for today.
Sure, thanks. And this is sort of a question for Mark. One of the issues that I had my most recent role was getting the prioritization where the customer success would be arguing that here are the issues that are running into with the clients that need to be improved in the engineering side, but the founders and the engineers tended to lean more in the direction of adding new features rather than fixing or improving the existing ones. And obviously presenting customer stories or all these issues can help add weight to that. But I'm wondering if you can speak from your experience as to how you managed to balance that, or push it from more successfully from your point of view, so to speak.
Certainly, yeah, classic situation there where the feature is getting all the attention. There's a momentum to stay there, but I think you can get both the technical team and C-suite to listen more. Using this blueprint, gathering the data from the different points of interaction as best you can at a quantifiable level. But then it came up in our discussion group. If you can get the call recordings and the transcriptions that you can play for them that are aligned with that data, and they hear someone say, I call and I get voicemail, and you tell me there and in the app auto response that I will get a response by X, and then I get a partial answer, and then I call back to get more. And when they hear that kind of urgency and desperation that's bumped right up against the analysis and the numbers, I think sometimes they'll suddenly say, hey, guess what? Our roadmap has just changed. We're going to fix this issue.
Thank you.
Great question. This is great. I wish we could keep going. I'm going to leave us here on a high. Appreciate you all joining the panel discussion for today. Again, Mark, want to give you a big thanks for coming in here and presenting such a great topic, and for everyone in your contributions. Thank you so much for joining the Brain Trust. This is what the Brain Trust is all about. And of course, we want to thank Y Meadows for bringing us all together. Thanks for coming, folks, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you.